everybody. This is So Many Sequels. I'm Josh.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
We did it. That's all of our names.
Success. Yep. Podcast over.
Podcast.
Let's hear the real ones.
Yeah. So we got a lot of good stuff to talk about on this episode of the show. We'll go ahead and get kicked off with some news, though, because there's been some big movie news going on.
There really has.
I'll start out with, let's discuss the last big movie chain in the United States is now set to reopen. Regal Cinemas is going to start a phased reopening beginning April 2nd, which is very soon. However, there's some bad news in there for us. It does not include our local Warren Theater.
Yeah.
It is not on the list to reopen April 2nd, but it will. There are different phases. So hopefully we get it back soon. What?
As long as it's open by July.
Right. So there's going to be more theaters opening on April 9th and April 16th. There'll be more in those batches. But a whole bunch of theaters will open April 2nd, including in California, Florida, New York, Nevada, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and the other Warren Theater in Oklahoma, the Moore Theater, will reopen.
Cool.
So they're doing that to kick off the, I guess, official summer movie season with Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong. I don't know what order's in. That's exciting. Regal has been like dead closed for months. They kind of reopened last fall, I think, and it didn't stick. They closed and just said, forget about it. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could be wrong, but I think also Regal is the only one of like the big four theater chains, which is, I think, its ownership is international. Like they're part of a group called Cineworld, I think.
Yeah.
So like they own a bunch of theaters in the UK and Europe and stuff like that too. So that might have had something to do with why they were closed for so long.
So they're going to reopen with basically the same kind of rules that Cinemark and AMC and the others have reopened with. You know, health screenings for employees, socially distanced seating and concession stands, limited menus, face mask requirements. Let's see, I was trying to 50% theater capacity, increasing fresh air intake, so all that fun stuff. As I looked through it, I didn't see anything different. So, but that's exciting to have another set of theaters reopening so that we can hopefully get some more movies out in theaters. Now that we've got over 100 million vaccines distributed in the United States. And
isn't it 200 million?
The goal is 200 million within
the first 100 days.
40 some odd days.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm interested to see
200 million shots in the first 100 days of the administration is the goal.
I'm interested to see as the vaccinations continue to get rolled out and as these movie theaters open and more of them open, to see how the box office numbers are impacted. I know, David, the movie we're talking about later doesn't have box office stats, but do you have box office stats for this week? I'm just out of my own curiosity. Yeah. Okay, let's save those for the end. But okay. I'm intrigued to see, as more theaters are opening, if people are actually going to feel comfortable going to them. Because I think that there's going to be this weird whiplash effect, maybe I'm wrong, of people who are so excited to do things, but also people who have not done anything for so long that they're still very reserved to do certain things, like go to a movie theater.
Well, see, I would think that would make the movie theater the key activity, because it is going and doing something, but still silently alone in the dark. So it's not overexerting social energy or anything like that.
Right. It's the best part of the pandemic with doing something.
Yeah, it's like,
being alone.
I can get out of the house but still be on my own. I'll take a movie ticket, please.
Well, I'll tell you this, and this is a theater detail I can't give you, is that as of right now, so like the highest grossing movie in America, right? With the most, like with the openings that we have had recently, has been in a max of 2,500 theaters. Okay. 2,500 theaters. That's with Los Angeles reopening, New York reopening, and they're making their way up. Last year, not even the highest grossing movie. Last year, Star Wars. Let me put it this way: the most theaters. The Star Wars Episode 9 was in over 4,400. So we're still not even quite to the halfway point of theaters being open, which kind of ties into our next story and why, even though things are looking better, there's a long way to go before the theater industry is completely healthy enough to justify some of these bigger blockbuster movies, these high budget films. But hopefully we get there soon. Hopefully, they can crack 3,000 soon. I mean, Bad Boys for Life was the highest grossing movie last year, and it was in 3,700 theaters. So with that in mind, do you want to get on to the next topic, which is a big shift from Disney on its movie slate?
Yeah, despite the really good theater news, Disney has decided to shift some pretty big movie openings, including one of the most anticipated movies of this year and last year, Marvel's Black Widow, which will come out July 9th in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access. I'm kind of surprised by it because they'd held out for so long. They refused to do that, and then it seemed like now that things are looking up, they've decided to do it. It's very confusing to me. And they've obviously had to shift a whole bunch of other things because of it. The whole Marvel slate has shifted a bit. The Shang-Chi movie, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, was supposed to come out July 9th. It will now come out in September. The Eternals is shortly after that. The cool news for Marvel fans is, depending on if there are any more delays, there's a 6-month span where there's a shit ton of Marvel movies coming.
But aren't there 4 total?
Something like that. Plus the
Crazy.
shows, the Marvel thing there's gonna be a lot of that. But here's the funniest part of the whole thing to me. And I know, because we've talked about it before, Garrett's gonna absolutely hate this part. But The King's Man has been moved again to December 2022, which means that The King's Man will come out a full 3 years past its original intended release date.
Oh man, I remember watching trailers.
November 2019, that movie was supposed to come out.
Listen, this movie has been delayed pre-pandemic.
It's the new Mutants.
The trailer won't go away. For the life of me, I need this movie to be released. I need this movie. Once this movie is released, that is the moment that I will see normal again. I've been living in a Groundhog Day of this damn Kingsman for 3 years. And I need it to end.
It's pretty bad.
So
yeah. And Garrett, weren't you in a theater where someone was like, I don't think that has anything to do with the King's Man?
Yeah, they did. Yep, I certainly did. I laughed.
I don't understand. So is there a reason why it's being delayed a whole another year?
I don't know why it's being delayed that long, because the other movies aren't.
Are they reshooting the entire movie?
I mean, maybe. Let's see.
I mean,
at least give me enough for a new trailer.
They might just want to, I guess they're probably just trying to stake out a weekend that doesn't have a ton of other competition. They moved Shang-Chi back to, I think, what is it, Memorial Day weekend? No, that's not right. They moved it back to Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, currently
there's not much else there right now.
So, do you guys remember the movie The Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds? He's a video game character.
Yeah.
That is now August 13th. And Death on the Nile, now February 2022.
Yeah, that one's a way out too.
Dang.
So
and they also I guess they pushed back the release date for Cruella, but they are releasing it in May. So I mean, they're clearly like, okay, we can release something in May, but let's wait until we have a chance for more theaters to be open for Black Widow.
Yeah,
I guess they're kind of if they can get up to, if they can get up to even 3,500 or 4,000 theaters by May or by July, that'd be huge.
Yeah.
Maximize their money on that.
So
from Disney's perspective, it makes sense. But unfortunately, it has the adverse side effect of continuing to hobble the theater industry as they make their way through the end of this pandemic. It's one of those things I can see both sides, and I kind of really wish that they had figured something else out.
Yeah, and I think the biggest head scratcher of all is pulling Pixar's Luca from theaters completely.
Yeah.
And making it a Disney Plus exclusive, with no added cost at least. But that's two Pixar movies in a row that theaters aren't even being allowed to touch, and that's just that seems indefensible to me at this point.
Yeah, it
you know,
really
I
seems
would be
weird.
interested to see how much money they made off of Soul. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if they've said, but I mean, for that, because you got to think that.
Well, Soul came
yeah.
out for free, so they made no money.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, no money in terms of no money in terms of like traditional sales, but a lot. I watched a really interesting video about how studios make money with movies, and obviously, and Josh, you can attest to this, I think, a little bit, having a background working in movie theaters, but it's not like when a movie's released, the studio gets 100% of that revenue. They might get a higher percentage when the movie, like the opening weekend, but then it eventually kind of works its way down that like the theater takes like roughly around 50-50 by the end of the movie's run, right? So even though like a movie like Inside Out made like $700 million at the box office, it only had like a profit margin when you take in marketing and we take in the production cost. It only had a profit margin of about $178 million. So it's not like it had a huge upside. Now, Soul, they put all the money in the budget, but they didn't have to. But what they got back is that they didn't have to spend as much on marketing because they can just market it through Disney Plus, which they already own. And then I don't know it's hard to look this kind of number up, but the way that most Disney movies make a lot of money is through their merch sales. Because while Cars had like a profit margin of like 180 to $200 million, it's a $19 billion merchandise franchise. So if Soul is a big merch seller, which I'd be surprised if it's as big as, it wouldn't obviously be as big as Cars or Toy Story, but if Soul becomes a pretty decent merch seller, then they'll make probably more money than they might have made in the theater run. I think that Soul's movie theater numbers probably would have been comparable to Coco, which did well, but did way better internationally than it did in the United States. So it's hard to say. And that's the thing is, unfortunately, Disney's never going to be forthcoming about this in terms of how these things did. Like, did Soul help raise more subscribers? Did they have a correlation to believe that Soul did well enough that Luca could do the same without having to charge people for it? Did Raya and the Last Dragon do so well on Premiere Access that they thought we can release Black Widow both in theaters and make a ton of money in theaters and release it on Premiere Access and make a ton of money in Premiere Access? I wish they'd just say that instead of just kind of leaving us to speculate.
Yeah.
Because Feige has said several times that he didn't want to do the Premiere Access route. He wanted to do a traditional big theater release. So obviously there's information that they're just not sharing that makes it, unfortunately leaves us to speculate.
Yeah.
But sorry, that I've been in a rabbit hole ever since they pushed it again. I've been going through these kind of things.
At least we're getting answers now in terms of when is this stuff going to happen, because once they make the commitment to do a Disney Plus premiere, even in tandem with theaters, we know it's going to stick. Black Widow's coming out July 9th. They've yet to move a date that included a Disney Plus premiere. So I think they're solid on that one. It'll just be interesting to see, will it still be a big Marvel box office hit or not? I suspect.
I think even
yes.
I think it will.
I think it may not be it obviously won't be the biggest Marvel movie ever in terms of that, but I think it'll do well, especially if they have more theaters open. But the funny thing is, Disney now is over 100 million subscribers on Disney Plus. They did that in less than 2 years, what it took Netflix like 15, 16 years to do. And with this Premiere Access thing, where they're charging $30, which is kind of a lot, but if only 7% of subscribers do the Premiere Access route, that's $210 million no split with the theater, profit.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it would be. It's surprising that they aren't doing it with more things, but I know they can't. They probably know they can't get away with doing it with everything. But
It's very weird.
so
I don't want it to be a bummer, so we'll see. I know there's a lot of people out there who would be perfectly happy never leaving their home and only watching things on their televisions, but it ain't me.
yeah, I mean, just if anything, they just need to find a way to make the theater experience even more special.
Yeah, that's the thing. Make it better. And they have been. I think the theater experience has improved greatly, especially in the chains. You know, there's been like indie theaters and smaller companies that have kind of been really nice for a long time now. Your Alamo Draft Houses and your local stuff like our local Circle Cinema. But in the last several years, you've actually seen the chains finally take that on, which has been nice. So that's that. Let's go into our review of the week.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! Wow. So excited.
On this episode,
it's the return of Superman talk.
Yes, we are going to review Zack Snyder's Justice League, the 4-hour and 2-minute cut of Justice League that fans have been demanding for years with their hashtag Snyder Cut. Yes. Zack Snyder had to famously leave the production of Justice League. Gosh, I don't know how far along they were, but
they were in post-production.
They were pretty far along, but not so far along that they couldn't drastically change everything about the movie. Due to a family emergency, he left that, and the directorial job was taken over by Joss Whedon, to the disappointment of many people when the movie was not good. The movie was quite a bomb critically and commercially, and fans for years have been demanding this. Earlier, when was it? Was it early this year or late last year when they announced that this would come out? I feel like it was early this year.
I think it was like January.
Yeah, I think it was like January. Warner Brothers said, you know what? The Snyder Cut's coming to HBO Max exclusively. And it came out in late March, and here we are to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
This is a weird one because it's like the same movie, but a totally different movie. So like, yeah. I don't know. I assume if you're watching this, you probably have seen it and don't care about spoilers. But also, it's hard to spoil it because the plot is mostly the same.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more detail to the plot this time. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I did not rewatch, as it's now known, the Justice League before this. I really should have, probably, because it would have given me maybe a little bit better clarity as to what changes there really were. Yeah. But there were several things that were quite obvious because there were whole new plot points, character storylines that just weren't even existent in the original. It's impossible to say it's not a better movie.
Yeah, let me ask this simple question. One word answer for everyone. We'll just go in a circle. Was the Snyder Cut better than the original theatrical cut? Andrew.
Don't know.
You don't have to say if you like it. You just have to say, was it better?
You never saw the original, did you?
I never saw the original.
Oh, you literally don't know. Okay.
Never saw it. Better for it, really.
Fair. Okay. It is. Yes, it's better than the theatrical cut.
David.
I would say 100%.
I would also say it's considerably better than the theatrical cut. Okay. Then I guess I'm super intrigued in hearing Andrew's thoughts first, since he never saw the original cut to compare it to.
Okay. So I do have thoughts, and that is this.
Yeah, I would hope so. Otherwise, you'd be fired.
Oh, okay, cool. My thing about the Snyder Cut is this. I don't like Zack Snyder. I don't. Okay. I really don't. I don't like the guy. And the thing is that when it comes to Zack Snyder, I feel like his style of films is way too comical. Like it's trying to immerse you into the world of the comic. And he loves the use of slow motion.
Gloves?
And
You might say, oh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
what were we gonna say?
I was trying to come up with like a really good joke, but I whiffed on it. Go ahead.
Okay. There's only a few directors that I know of that actually use slow motion to its advantage. One person is John Woo. But what he does here, I feel like this movie was at its 4-hour running time. I feel like this movie could have been maybe a solid 3 hours. Like I feel like there's a lot of like dragging on this. I will say this, for what it's worth, this movie has a lot of substance. This movie's got more substance than I know it came out. I know that it came out like at a weird time in the DC universe. It came out like before all of the characters were really established. It came out before Wonder Woman. It came out before Aquaman. So
yeah, well, it came out after Wonder Woman, but yeah, you're right, before Aquaman.
Oh, did it? Okay.
I think it came out the same year as Wonder Woman.
Okay. But my thing is that like when this movie was released, there were still characters that weren't established yet, and that's where I can kind of understand the confusion. I have not seen the Justice League. My thing is, when it comes to this movie, I think it's pretty good action wise. I think it's a good film. If you are a hardcore fan of the DC universe. I wish I was. I can't say that I am. There's elements of the DC universe that I like. I don't know, but like the Batman Superman thing is kind of it's old to me, and it's like it for some reason I wasn't interested in it before. I'm a little bit more interested now that we know everybody. But I'm eager to see where the DC universe goes after this.
Nowhere.
Yeah, probably. But my thing is that like my final analysis of this film is it's a good action flick. It's like an epic action flick that we don't see anymore, but it could have been a little bit quicker. So it's desperately trying to be. I feel like it's desperately trying to be in game.
Yeah, there's that comparison's going to come up. Yeah,
I definitely got Avengers Infinity War vibes.
Yeah, and then these two movies. I mean, those two, 3 movies, I guess you could say, were being sort of worked on all around the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It actually came out first.
Yeah, it would. This and what all the stuff he was working on would have come out. Because this movie ended up being released, I think, in November of 2017. So it would have come out like 4 or 5 months before.
Yeah.
Infinity War. But it's kind of one of those things too of like there's sort of they're both comic book things, and comic book things for for all of the diversity they have, there's sort of a traditional thing of big invader guy comes in to and big bad is coming to take over, and heroes gather to fight big bad. You could make the same argument that's very similar to like the last episode of Justice League Unlimited, or something like that. So it does a great job, I think, at telling that story. But yeah, the similarities can't be ignored in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The entire time I was just thinking of like I was just like, this is too much like the Avengers. And yeah, you're right, it did come out before, but like I was just thinking like, this is way too much like the Avengers. I'm getting that, and I'm curious. I'm especially curious that if, now thinking about it, if it were to be released in its entirety before Avengers Infinity War, would that change anything? Because then you have Marvel fans thinking like, oh, wait a minute, this is too much like Justice League.
It's possible. I mean, I think that I don't think I can address that. We can address that later, I think. But I think it would be, you're definitely going to have that. You're always going to have that, the comparison between these two comic book franchises, despite moving into the theater realm or the the TV screen, the TV shows and movies, like they're in totally different formats now, but they're always going to be linked. The discussion between DC and Marvel is always going to be linked.
And if I can just lay one more thing out.
Oh, lay it out, babe.
What's if I can just say one more thing, the 4x3 format.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
I thought that was interesting. I want to know what Zack Snyder was thinking.
Can I tell you what I believe what I believe the issue was there?
Go
So
ahead.
they shot a lot of this movie to be for IMAX, for the IMAX format, which is going to be those big, tall screens. And so to reconfigure the entire thing they had shot for, I guess, a traditional widescreen TV, like most people have at home, I guess was going to be like a big extra expenditure that would have probably pushed when they could have released this thing back a long ways. And I'm sure, they put that that's because of Zack's creative integrity at the front. I'm sure also he probably pushed back and said, no, this is the way I shot it. You should keep it this way. But that's what I've gathered from sources on the internet,
Okay.
which I don't have pulled up here. I wish I had.
We'll
That
just
makes
take it before.
Would you take me? Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, who's next?
Yeah, I'll go next. How about that?
No, go ahead, Josh.
So I liked that this movie was presented in 6 chapters because it allowed me to treat it like a miniseries
Yes.
and not sit and watch a 4-hour movie straight through, which
Yeah.
I find nearly impossible to do.
So did you do it over 6 nights, or did you do like 2 a night?
No, I want to say it probably took like 3 nights, maybe 4. I can't remember exactly, but it was like maybe 1 chapter this night, 2 the next, something like that. So, no, I didn't just watch 1 every night, but it did help a lot because I feel like I was able to kind of take it all in easier.
Mhm.
Each chapter ended in an appropriate way that left me curious about the next chapter. They didn't feel like disjointed or anything. And it felt more like a comprehensive story and a little more like an epic in that way, because it's really it's like an added device to guide us through the movie. And so I liked that. And a lot of people are like, you won't sit and watch a 4-hour movie, but you'll sit and watch 6 hours of Criminal Minds on Netflix and not move.
Yeah.
Like, that is true for some people, but that's not true for me. I will still not sit and watch that many episodes of anything in a row. I will not sit and watch the same thing for 4 hours unless something has gone wrong. So it was really, really good for me. I like that part of it. Now, story-wise, to try to not be too repetitive, what I really liked was the added backstory and kind of lore and world building. I really liked learning about the history of the silly named mother boxes and how they came to be, and like the original battle where they were all like protected by the different realms. I liked that. I liked the extra backstory for, I forgot his name for a second, Cyborg. We got a little bit more of him.
Mhm.
Now
It's a lot more him. Yeah.
I liked the new introduction to Barry Allen, except for like the hot dog part was a little awkward.
Yeah, it's still strange.
I don't know if it was supposed to be funny. It was. I just didn't feel like it landed, but I did like it because the effects they use for when the Flash runs was cool. I like that a lot. I like all the lightning. I like that he literally ran out of his shoes, like his shoes ripped apart. That was neat.
Mm-hmm.
So
like he shattered the glass just by putting his finger in his.
Yeah, he like warps it and then it shatters. So all that was cool. All the added backstory was cool. If there was one plot line, if you want to call it that didn't quite fit for me, it was that I felt like we spent too long getting random scenes of Lois Lane that felt confusing for the longest time because
Mhm.
Superman's barely mentioned for a good chunk of it, and we don't get to his resurrection until a long way into the movie.
Mhm.
So those were the only parts that I felt like didn't quite work was Amy Adams' parts, because not only is she just kind of there randomly for the longest time, in her scenes there's hardly any speaking.
Yeah.
So it really is just like cut to Amy Adams being forlorn for a little bit and then go back to whatever the action is. So all that was good. But generally speaking, yeah, I thought the movie was a lot better than what I remember of the theatrical cut. And I think as a TV show, I would watch it again sometime down the line. I still wouldn't sit there for 4 hours, but there are good aspects of it, of the whole Snyder verse. I still think Henry Cavill is a good Superman who hasn't quite been written correctly. I think I will defend Batfleck. I think Ben Affleck's pretty good as Batman, especially an older Batman. And then obviously everyone else, we already know Gal Gadot to hit, Jason Momoa, smash.
Much better in this.
Yeah. Allegedly, we're gonna see Ezra Miller in his own Flash movie. That movie almost seems too good to be true at this point, with each new bit of information that comes out. But
yeah,
and to follow up on what Andrew said at the beginning, I also don't particularly care for Zack Snyder as a director. But one thing I've noticed is that when he releases his director's cut of any given movie, I seem to like it better.
Yeah.
This one's got a little asterisk next to it because it wasn't really his movie in the beginning. But Watchmen, the director's cut's better than the theatrical. Batman versus Superman, the director's cut's better than the theatrical.
Did you ever see the director's cut for 300?
No. I don't know that I saw that one.
Don't know if it's better, but it probably is. Let's face it.
It probably is. It's like, I feel like if a studio is going to hire Zack Snyder, you need to just let him make what he wanted to make. Whether it's 4 hours or not. And if you're not willing to like swallow that pill, then don't hire him, I guess, because it does seem to improve when they just say, okay, you know what? Make what you wanted and we'll put it on the Blu-ray.
I agree with that. Like,
and those are my thoughts.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
I agree with you on that. Like, for some reason, yeah. Like, I will say that I've not seen the director's cut of 300. I'll have to go back and watch because there's I think there's 3 cuts of Watchmen.
There are multiple cuts of Watchmen.
Yeah. So there's the theatrical cut.
They're all better than theatrical.
Yeah. There's the director's cut, and then there's the ultimate cut, which I don't know how long that is, but whatever. But the thing is that like, yeah, it seems that way because I remember Batman versus Superman being really good. And that's my thing is that like when it comes to Zack Snyder, obviously fans like him. He's got a little bit of I want to say he's got a little bit of a cult following. I mean, he is in the comic book realm. I mean,
what do you mean a little bit of a cult following? An entire fan group got this movie made.
Oh, well, then I stand corrected.
I think he's a little bigger than cult now.
Well, like, but the thing is that like he's only done comic book movies.
Yeah, for the most part.
So I don't know he's able to do that. Good for him. But my thing is that if they're gonna hire him, if they're gonna hire him to do these franchise movies, yes, I agree. Why don't they just give him free reign?
Yeah, let him do his own thing.
Let him do it. They did the same thing with Ridley Scott, and he didn't get like final cut on Blade Runner until almost 30 years later. So
yeah, one of his only movies that's not a comic book movie, or 2 of his only comic movies that aren't comic book movies, are still kind of franchise movies. It's Dawn of the Dead, which is a remake of George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, and then Sucker Punch is like one of his only original movies that he
wrote.
The
one that basically like made people think maybe he's not that great.
And then the other one is the Guardians of Ga'Hoole. I keep forgetting that he was technically the director of an animated movie, Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, was directed by Zack Snyder, and it's got really good reviews. So maybe there's something there, but we really yet to see him like do his own thing. I said the same thing about James Gunn, is that James Gunn has a good backlog before Guardians of the Galaxy, but since then, like, hey, give James Gunn let him do his whatever he wants to do now, and give him that same level of money you might for Guardians, or give him 2/3 of what you might get for Guardians.
Yeah.
I want to see what he would come up with now, instead of him doing, so when he got Suicide Squad, I was kind of bummed about that. But yeah, Snyder and a lot of his movies do have that director's cut thing. Well, Garrett, do you want to go?
I don't have too much else to say. I mean, I agree with most of what everybody says. I'm not a huge fan of Snyder's style. I think the slow-mo effects were done well most of the time, but every time that I thought it was done well, I immediately went, well, I got the same treatment, so it cheapens it a little bit, in my opinion. I like the character development much better. I like the clarity on what the hell is going on. I don't remember much about the theatrical cut because I don't like it. But I remember constantly being confused about what is going on. Like, what is the villain even trying to accomplish? Like, I just remember constantly not having any idea what was going on. So it was good to see that. I did get some Avengers vibes, but that didn't bother me. Other than the fact that Darkseid kind of looked like Thanos. It depends on how you tell your story. And I thought that they had really good moments of telling their story. But in the end, I'm going to pose this question. So we all agree that have seen it, that this movie is far better than the theatrical cut. But is it a good movie? Because I still walked away not really caring. But what I will say is that I think this had some version of this come out. I think that this could have been the one that righted the ship, because I was very intrigued by the world building that they created, the characters that they set up, and the branches that they proposed. And so while I do not like Man of Steel, I do not care for Batman v Superman, I do not care for most of Zack Snyder, and I don't care for most of DC's Universal movies. But I think based on what I saw from this one, it at least, in my opinion, could have been the one to go, okay, now we have some footing, now we can get some traction, and now we can move forward. What do you guys think? Because to me, I still think that this movie is just okay.
Now, did you watch it? Did you watch it as a movie, or like Josh, did you take it in segments?
I watched it in chunks.
Yeah.
I do think it was. I think it's a good movie.
Mm-hmm. I give it. I would, getting a little ahead of our rating at the end. I'd probably give it like a B+, A-. Like, I think that there's a combination of, you have to look at like the outer circumstances of the movie, and then you kind of have to take the movie as it is. And if this had been what he released in theaters, or that had been released in theaters in 2017, I think I would feel the same way, because a lot of the problems I have with it, I can't just ignore because I'm excited to get, the unedited cut. I'm very happy for Zack Snyder that he got this opportunity to do this, something a lot of directors would love to get, a chance to release their full vision of a movie without having to make all these compromises that a lot of movies have to make. But I still think as it's released, as I'm looking at it, it's really good, but it's still not quite, it's not what I would call perfect. There's still a lot of things that I have a problem with.
No, but I'd say, considering the fact I'm getting a huge echo from somebody. I don't know.
I just mute myself, man.
I don't know. Anyway, I think considering the fact that this movie, or this version of the movie, has come out like almost a full 4 years later, kind of hobbled together from old footage, from new footage that was shot late last year, and like salvaged from whatever you want to, like the Warner Brothers cutting room floor. I think it's pretty impressive how good it is considering
sure.
all those hurdles.
Mm.
It probably should still be confusing, and yet somehow it is a lot more clear. So yeah, I think it's a good movie, but I also think, if I'm pretty like, I'm pretty neutral as a DC person. There are some that, like, I really like Batman. I like Batman as much as I like any of the big Marvel people. But then I'm less enthused by like your Aquaman and Wonder Woman, Superman. Like, I like them at various levels. But like, if you're not a DC person, you're not gonna be made one now. So that's why I think, like, if your reaction watching it is, well, I still don't really care about these characters, and you probably just won't.
And I think for me, that comes from the world of DC that they've created, because I have always struggled to like anybody outside of Batman and Wonder Woman, for DC, and I think it's just because they're so like, for lack of a better comparison, it's a very Game of Thronesian world where they're like kings and gods, and these are the hierarchy people, and I don't connect with those kinds of worlds, and I have never connected with Superman as a hero. I don't care. You can go back and listen to our Superman the series movies podcasts.
Absolutely.
To hear how much I don't care.
Listen to Garrett and I yell at each other for like 12 minutes.
And David, we might yell at each other here again, because
we might.
Again, I don't care too much about Superman in general.
Yeah.
In this, and this is the best example that I have as to why I don't care about Superman. In this movie, I was excited to see Superman for a total of 10 seconds. And it was when he entered himself into the fight with Steppenwolf. But when he stepped in, I don't want to ruin the moment, but when he showed up the way that he did, I went, oh man, it's on. And then after like just a couple of things, it was over. And I was like, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well,
it was,
I'm not excited.
It's total,
it's just anticlimactic. And that's the way that it feels like with all of Superman, is that it's like, oh man, build up, Superman. Okay, well, that was fast.
Oh yeah, he comes in, he's the beast. He comes in. Mild spoilers here. It's a very John Cena-esque. Late return just demolishes.
And it sucks all the fun out of it.
A little bit, not a whole lot for me. I was
super excited
because here's my thing, Garrett. This is one of, now we got like a version of this in Man of Steel, and I praised this element when Man of Steel came out. This is one of the first times we've ever seen Superman on the big screen actually do something with his powers other than push and pull things. For so many of us watching the old Christopher Reeve Superman movies and Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, it's just him pushing stuff and carrying things. He's actually wrecking people in this movie, and I loved it. Blasting guys and punching. It was like, oh man, finally the bruiser Superman that like he can be, and he's actually fighting somebody who can take it. I
agree, and I think that goes back to the Superman discussion that we had last time, David, is that they just haven't given him a good villain. He's always facing Lex Luthor, who is just a human being who can't take his kind of stuff. You set him up with people like that, and that's a better villain for him to kind of showcase. And I was more intrigued by that, but it still did not give me the full payoff that I wanted. Thus, I still walked away just unsatisfied with Superman again.
It really helped that he kind of helps turn the tide, and then it's teamwork from there. And then you see like, hey, what all these characters can do as a unit. I guess to get into my thing is that I, despite my appearance and despite what my love for DC, you may not be saying what you think I'm going to say. It's good. Again, had a few problems with it. There's, we got the Zack Snyder cut. We got the theatrical cut. I'd really love to see like an editor's cut of this movie now, where we get rid of a lot of the waste. There's so much fat to trim here. I think you could shear up like 15 minutes just by not having so many slow-mo on things that don't matter. You know, I like a scene of Lois Lane going to Superman's memorial. You know, that's great. It doesn't need to take 2 minutes to do that. There's a scene where Aquaman saves a guy in the ocean and brings him in and goes, tell him not to go out during the king's tide. Takes his shirt off. Again, why did he put his shirt back on? Goes back into the ocean. It's all in slow-mo. It's like a 6-minute scene that doesn't really do much of anything, especially with the hindsight of you already have the Aquaman movie now. I know the Aquaman movie hadn't come out when they shot that, but you got it now. Your audience knows what Aquaman can do. They don't need it. They're not sitting there going like, oh, Aquaman saves people in the ocean. Oh, I didn't know that. You know, as nice as it is, I don't really think you need that intro with Barry Allen. I liked it. I think Barry Allen, his speed is like the perfect excuse for Snyder's slow-mo style.
Yeah.
There's only so many ways you can tell you can visualize super speed in film, you know, and one of the best ways to do it is the character with super speed moves at normal speed and everybody else is moving at super slow. You know, and so I thought that was great. But it just takes so long. And when some, I don't know what the song was, I should have looked up. When some total Zack Snydery song starts playing while he's in slow-mo, and it's like, it was like, I was like, oh,
It was Superman, right?
No. I can't remember. It would have been great if it was Superman from Scrubs. It was some song, I don't know, but it gave me such Watchmen vibes. Yes, Cyborg is 1,000 times better here. There's probably one scene you don't need from Cyborg in this movie, but otherwise, they give you an actual reason to care about Cyborg being in the movie. Barry Allen, while I still in general don't like the Sheldonizing of his character, I do really like his big hero moment at the end. That was, and they earned that really well with the scenes of him and his father in prison. That was really cool. I was actually watching it, and I was actually like my heart was kind of like light listening to it. I was like, it was this whole thing about make your own future, make your own past, you know, be your own man. Don't try to, don't waste your life trying to correct my mistakes, which is a great interesting message, and why Joss cut that for nothing, like nothing really. Like, it's so much better than what I remember having. I think from the moment Superman is resurrected, or the moment they decide to resurrect Superman, to right before the epilogue, I think it's a fantastic movie. There are 2 hours before that. Mm-hmm. And it is a lot of, like you said, world building and exposition and introducing you to characters and concepts, but not all of it lands for me. It's all well done enough, but it's just a lot of it feels like you're sitting there watching. It feels like you're watching them have to, like, you're literally watching Zack go, well, there's not movies for these characters, so I have to establish who they are. Yep. And I just don't think it's necessarily true. People get it. The Flash is fast. Aquaman saves people in the ocean. Wonder Woman is a Greek god. Like, people, it's not that difficult of a concept to get them over. But I also, and this is where I'm going to be a very unique person. Spoiler alert. Don't really give a crap about the epilogue stuff and them in the despondent future. Basically everything after the part where Lex Luthor and Deathstroke are talking, pointless. I don't like it. I think it weakens it weakens the whole thing of, like, Lex being like, hey, here's how you can kill Batman, and Deathstroke being like, I'm gonna kill Batman in the next Batman movie, and then 1 second later he's working with Batman 5 years later. It's like, oh, I guess that didn't work out. Whatever they did, that didn't work out. Jared Leto's fine in his cameo, but overall, the future that we're not going to get, I almost would have rather that not be teased if we're not ever going to get it, or keep it more vague than they did, because what they set up with it was actually, something that would be really interesting to see, is a future in which Superman's been corrupted and they have to, Darkseid finally showed up with his legions, and the heroes are having to find a way to overcome this. But we're never going to get that, or we're very unlikely to get that. One of the big execs at Warner Brothers said that they don't really have any plans or desires to restore the Snyderverse,
So
which is going to be interesting.
I read a little about the Snyder universe that he was going to set up eventually with the future of the Justice League movies. And he kind of, in an interview, they asked him, like, you know, or I guess the studio wanted him to just kind of wrap everything up because of that fact. They didn't want, like, you know, a world that they're not going to get. And Snyder was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not how the genre goes. And so I'm going to even if we don't ever get them, I'm going to branch off into the world that I was going to create, because that's how this world would have been. And that's how this genre goes. So at least from what I read, that is why at least he put those moments in there from his artistic perspective again.
Yeah. From an artistic perspective, I disagree with the idea of that. It's fine though. I mean, it's his movie ultimately. Like, if I was making my movie, I'd want all my stuff in that I made too. But from a consumer, from a viewer perspective, it just seemed like things would have been really great if you just ended on that monologue by Cyborg's father and left out on this sort of like more uplifting thing, because you're not going to finish it. Or, you know, you have the references to this imperfect future in there, you know, just leave it at that. Don't try to sell me on a movie that I'm never going to get. Lastly, I would have cut all that Martian Manhunter stuff. Both Martian Manhunter scenes were pointless to me. But that's that. But I'm a big DC fan. I love Batman. I love Superman. I have a Flash hat somewhere. The Riddler's back there. I'm very excited for more DC movies. You know, they're making an Aquaman 2, and it's still Jason Momoa, and I assume it's still going to carry through some of the elements of Zack Snyder's universe. There are plans for a third Wonder Woman movie, despite Wonder Woman 84's critical response. I assume it's still Gal Gadot. It's still going to carry forth some of those elements. If it's in the future, it could be Wonder Woman 2004 for all we know. And if they ever make this Flash with the director from It Chapter 2, I assume it's going to carry those things forward. So, like, remnants of the Snyderverse are going to still exist, but I just don't think we're going to get whatever story Zack had in mind for the future.
I think if I'm playing Booker here, Flash movie resets everything. You get rid of Superman unless Henry's back. I can't remember if he's back or not. I know he was gone, and I think I heard that he's coming back. Batfleck's gone for the most part. And you're going to somehow be able to keep Ezra Miller, Gal, Jason, and probably bring in Pattinson at some point in time.
Yeah. And then you've got Zachary Levi as Shazam on the outskirts too.
Especially when Black Adam comes out, because then they'll definitely want to try to figure out how to get The Rock in there somehow.
Yeah, The Rock versus the Justice League, that'd be great.
Yep.
That movie just had some casting news come out today too, or the other day. Pierce Brosnan.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
So that's gonna be cool. As a longtime viewer of DC stuff, and I read a lot of Batman stuff. I read a lot of Superman stuff as a kid. A lot of individual Justice Leagues, not really like a run of it. But I love it, and I want to see it keep going. I'm really excited for Matt Reeves' Batman. And I'm casually interested in a new Superman movie that's been announced with J.J. Abrams and was it Tennessee? Yeah, that's it. I was pretty sure that was who it was. I'm very interested to see what that turns into. And I'm excited. HBO now that Warner Brothers has this HBO Max streaming service, they're just greenlighting stuff left and right. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like 10 years from now. What all content they'll create for this. But that's really all I have to say about this movie. I really liked it. It's much better. There are issues with it.
There's no reason to go back to the Whedon one.
Whedon, no. In fact, we might talk about that next. Is just the disparity between the Joss version and this version.
I don't
Like,
even
what
want
is
to. I tried to watch it. It was bad. Don't watch it. You don't need to.
it's so he cut out there's so much cut out and so much added in that's just so weird. Like the Flash, I hated the Flash in that movie. I don't remember if we never did a review of the original Justice League, but I remember walking away going, wow, I can't believe they just like did a character assassination on the Flash. Barry Allen was awful in that. He was basically just Sheldon with a Flash suit on. And then Aquaman was just like dude bro Aquaman. It was so insufferable. And it took James Wan's Aquaman to maybe go, okay, all right, yeah, okay, this can work. This can work. Jason Momoa can do this, and it's actually making Aquaman kind of relatable for this time period. The character who's kind of been not that relatable for a long time.
Yeah, Joss Whedon as a person has kind of been revealed to be not super great. We're learning recently through people who've worked with him on past projects. So it's probably, I'm going to, putting that aside and just looking at his work, even there, he's not been very good in a very long time, in my opinion.
I agree.
His strength is television, and it always has been. I've not seen all of his movies, but the two that I like off the top of my head that I would say like these are Joss Whedon movies are the film version of Firefly, Serenity, and The Cabin in the Woods. We talked about this in our review of the Avengers franchise. I still think that Age of Ultron is weak in comparison to the rest of them. I don't think he was the right choice for that movie in hindsight. You hand him a big franchise and he just doesn't seem to be up to the task. Plus there were problems on the Age of Ultron set. We learned in hindsight there were enormous problems on the Justice League set. So it's like maybe this guy needs to just go away.
Yeah, I think
maybe he needs to just retire.
It seems like there's an element of his career peaking with Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah.
We thought you can actually go listen to our review of Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, and we all agree that Avengers Age of Ultron, despite now looking back being sort of I don't know if the right term, latchkey, component. Like there's so many things that are set up in that movie. It doesn't feel like it feels overstuffed, and I don't know if that's purely a Joss Whedon thing or if it's a combination of elements, but I really think Avengers Age of Ultron burnt him out. And his career hasn't been the same since.
Yeah. So I don't know. Hearing that Joss Whedon is attached to a project doesn't intrigue me in the way that it used to, like a decade ago.
No.
That's how that goes. He really did peak with Avengers. That could have been like his big break into like big Hollywood blockbusters, and it just didn't come to fruition. I mean, it was bad enough that he got some bad press after that, but then to just totally fumble Justice League, it kind of just I think killed any prospects of being a blockbuster director. But to piggyback a little bit on what you said earlier about the future of DC, I think one thing they might run into issue-wise is like this idea of consistency among the franchises, because none of them, they don't feel like they're part of the same universe. You know what I mean? Whereas Marvel pretty well does. The MCU feels pretty uniform. The DC movies feel like completely different worlds, even though they're not always. We didn't even mention the Birds of Prey universe that they've got going on. That is definitely part of the DC EU overall. We've got a rebooted Suicide Squad coming out this year.
You've got a different Joker.
Yeah.
Who is the
Yeah,
Joker?
you got Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, and then you have
Well, but then you
Jared
got,
Leto as Joker.
and that's where I wanted to talk about the consistency, because Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, as it stands currently, is considered standalone and not part of the universe.
Until the Ezra Miller Flash movie makes him part of it somehow. Like that, they can do whatever they want. I don't think they're going to do that, but like they can. There is a way that exists that they can get back into a somehow building a universe if they want to. But I'm also not opposed to giving me standalone universes and big crossover movies. I don't know how they would do that.
It would be very difficult to do what to join them together, because I mean, part of the issue with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is that by the time he becomes Joker, he is a middle-aged man and Batman is a child. So like that would be extremely difficult to pull off. Robert Pattinson's Batman is also supposed to be currently considered standalone because it's in like a different decade than the others. So like there would have to be a whole bunch of stuff to change it. I don't even know if one Flash movie is capable of pulling off.
May not be, yeah.
But then we also like Michael Keaton is in Flashpoint,
and so is Ben Affleck.
And so is Ben Affleck. You know.
Yeah, I don't know what
we
they
don't currently know if there's going to be a Birds of Prey sequel.
And it feels to me unfortunate, the idea that you're finally going to give a character that's probably like the 4th or 5th most popular character in the DC universe, and his first big live action film is going to be basically a advertisement for other characters and other movies, that like it's going to be fixing your problems, which kind of like, if that was like the 3rd Flash movie or the 4th Flash movie, where we've had like 8, we've had like 6 different Spider-Man movies, like if Spider-Man has, if the 8th Spider-Man movie has a lot of Iron Man in it, I don't care so much. I've gotten a lot of Spider-Man. The first time we get Flash, he's going to have to share his screen time with 3 different Batmans, or another version of the Flash that he meets or whatever. It's a little bit disappointing for it to possibly go down that way. Obviously, this is all speculation at this point, and I'll say that Doctor Strange 2 seems to be going a lot in that direction too. It might have Wanda in it, might have this, but they've kind of done a better job of establishing in the Marvel movies that these kind of interactions can happen, and they haven't necessarily pulled that off yet. Warner Brothers has, but you're right. No, but I'm sorry. I went off on a tangent there.
No, you're right. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be an exaggerated version of one of my main issues with Batman versus Superman, which was that I don't think Wonder Woman and Aquaman belonged in that movie. It was very weird to have them there.
And Flash is in it too. He has like that brief appearance from the future.
That movie is not Batman versus Superman. You just made a Justice League movie. I don't understand.
I mean, it is called Dawn of Justice. You could have just called it the pre-Justice League or something like that.
Well, where DC, in my opinion, went wrong is they were trying to play catch up in the wrong way. They knew that they were already behind on getting their Justice League out. They should have given each character they wanted to establish at least one movie before they released it, but they were trying to get that Justice League out quick. They wanted their big bads to go up against Marvel's big bads instead of taking time to establish, at least in some way, who these characters are. Because while most people, because like Cyborg especially, I don't feel like the general fan knows who that is. And I also don't feel like the general fan, they have an idea who Flash is now because of the show, but pre-show, I feel like most people would be like, yeah, he's fast, but that's it.
Yeah.
If anything, I think focused on the wrong characters, like maybe instead of getting Batman v Superman, which I'm going to call a Batman movie for lack of a better term, and Man of Steel to establish Superman, maybe we should have gotten Wonder Woman and Aquaman first, because like we already know who Batman and Superman is. They should be the ones who are introduced in another movie, and give us time to learn more about less established characters. Ben Affleck, Batman, and later on.
I for a long time defended the idea. This was before like Man of Steel came out, but I for a long time defended the idea, because if you remember, Man of Steel came out 1 year after Avengers, so like not only they finally catch up, they're like way behind at that point. But I have maintained for a long time that I thought that the Justice League characters were recognizable enough that you could get away with not having to do 6 movies to build up to Justice League. That you could Superman, Batman, like you just said. How many times do you need to watch Superman's planet blow up and you need to watch Batman's parents die? You know, like you don't need another version of that. Wonder Woman, you could stand with doing a solo movie. The Flash, you could stand with doing a solo movie. You could introduce a character like Cyborg without a movie and make part of his origin be the Justice League movie. I don't have a problem with that. I think that that's a great way of getting kind of a backdoor pilot, to use a TV term, for Cyborg. Because after this movie, I was like, man, you could do a Cyborg movie. Like, there's plenty of stuff here. You could do something with that. You know, Aquaman, you might be better off introducing him in something like this, because Aquaman for so many years, I mean, for decades, has been a punchline of the DC fandom and of general people who, if you've heard of Aquaman, you're like, Aquaman. But you don't, I felt like you didn't have to, like Josh said, you could have introduced 2 of the characters that are maybe lesser known in build-up movies, and then go right into Justice League, because, you know, these characters are fairly well known. I think that they could have gotten away with it. Now, looking back at it, maybe I was wrong. You know, I think that if I had gotten the chance to see Ben Affleck as Batman once before, it might have not made me feel better about Batman versus Superman and then Justice League. If I had gotten to know Aquaman as Jason Momoa's Aquaman first, I probably would have liked him better. Because I could have understood where they were going what they were going for. But you know, you live and learn.
That's true.
They're all just making it up as they go along now anyway.
Well, unless there are any other things to add about Justice League, I say let's move on to our next topic, I guess, which is we don't really have box office stats for this movie.
No, the closest thing I have is a Nielsen-esque report. Samba TV reported that amongst the people they have, at least 1.8 million American households watched at least the first 5 minutes of Justice League the weekend it debuted, which is not quite as good as Wonder Woman 84, which had 2.2 million, but just a little bit better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which they recorded data for too, which had 1.7. Now, granted, that's not official numbers from Warner Brothers or from Disney, so you got to take a little bit of it with how many people are in that survey. But you know, I mean, people have watched it. You can tell by Twitter, you can tell by most social media. It is a huge topic of conversation right now. It has captured the zeitgeist.
Yeah. All right. Well, I believe Andrew is running the letterbox game for this week.
Right.
Where we will guess the current score, average
It's gonna be
score
the hardest one ever.
of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, okay. So, Zack Snyder's Justice League. What does everybody rank it as we speak?
Hang on, I think I rated it on Letterboxd, so I'm gonna check real quick.
Are we talking about?
I shouldn't.
Are we giving our own personal rating, or are we guessing the rating?
Guessing.
I'm gonna say 3.9.
Ooh, you're going a little high.
David, you're 3.9.
I'm gonna go low, but not incredibly low. I'm gonna say 3.3.
So David 3.9, Josh 3.3.
I'm gonna go a little higher, but in between, I'm gonna say 3.6.
Okay, well, that's perfect.
Okay.
There's a chance for everybody to win here. No ties are available, I believe.
So Josh 3.3, Garrett 3.6, David 3.9.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The winner is Garrett with a 3.5.
Oh, a solid 3.5.
I feel like that's close enough.
All right.
So yeah, 3.5 is the average for this. Josh, you did rate it. It is 3.5. Garrett, you also rated it 3.3 stars.
All right.
What does
I
everybody
rated it, but I haven't reviewed it yet.
what does everybody rank it personally?
You already told mine and Josh's.
Yeah. So what does David rank it?
Hey, did I already do it? Profile. Let me go to my Letterboxd account. You can follow me on Letterboxd, just at David Prock. I'll be the guy wearing the red hat.
I should.
If
I
you're
should-
not sure it's me, A Knight's Tale is in my top favorites, so that you'll know it's me when you see A Knight's Tale, one of the best movies of all time. Lists.
Garrett just saw that for the first time the other day.
I did.
Really?
I did.
Great, right?
Yeah, it was very good. I was very. There's a weird part of me that didn't see a chunk of movies. It was like early 2000s, because young Garrett, who didn't know any better, who I won't make excuses for, would see a particular kind of movie and just assume it was a chick flick, and A Knight's Tale somehow got into that category, and I never saw it, and then I just never revisited because of the opportunity never came up, and it wasn't enough in my forefront to go, you know what movie I want to watch? A Knight's Tale.
I know, it's such a random movie, right? It's a sports movie set in medieval times, essentially.
It was very good. I liked it.
Very good. I appreciate anybody who tells me that they hate it and it sucks. That's great for you. All right. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. Heath Ledger is so cool in it. Paul Bettany, who's now known worldwide as The Vision, had me laughing my ass off as a kid. Just it is so funny. He spent a year in silence to better understand the whisper.
He was very funny.
Ravished by her Turkish uncle, the whole thing. So great. I would give Zack Snyder's Justice League a 4. I think that might be the highest of anybody here, but I give it a B plus, A minus. It's in that range. It's between for me, it's between like on a grading scale between like a 78 and an 82. Really good. An hour and maybe 10 minutes too long. Too much slow-mo. Didn't need the Aquaman saving a guy on a boat, putting on a shirt for no reason and taking it back off. Like those elements removed, very good. It's funny. I've seen a lot of TikToks that are like side-by-side comparisons, and you're like, wow, one of the ways that Joss cut so much of this movie is just by not having the slow-mo be so long. He just like had cuts, what a strange phenomenon. But yeah, I think it's really good though. It's much better than anything I think than most things that DC has put out in recent history. I don't think it's the best that we'll ever get from DC, but there's something for giving a director the opportunity to exact their full vision. Every director I've seen on Twitter has been complimenting him, whether or not they like the movie or not. They're like, "Hey, great for you, man." And it's a situation where it sucked. The movie is dedicated to his daughter. And so you got to appreciate, I think you have to appreciate it as just a purely artistic endeavor in a lot of ways. So I give it a 4 stars.
Respect because this really is his true vision. He did not get paid for this in order to have almost complete creative control. There is one thing you mentioned.
And they did throw a hell of a budget at it.
They did throw a big budget. There was one thing that they didn't let him do that I read, where he wanted the Martian Manhunter to be the Green Lantern, but they were like, no, we have plans for that.
Yeah, I wish that instead of either of those, it had just been Zachary Levi shows up. That would have been like, cut that first scene with Martian Manhunter, and just at the end, Zachary Levi shows up and he's like, "Hi, Batman."
Yeah,
I would have had such
my God.
incredible.
I'd like to apply for the Justice League, please.
Trying to picture Zachary Levi Shazam on screen with Ben Affleck's Batman. And that's where I'm like, the consistency is not inconsistent. Those worlds don't belong.
No.
Well, that's why you got to continue. I mean, if Snyder's not going to be a part of it anymore, you have to start to adjust the tone, right? You have to start to adjust the tone to fit certain things together.
All right,
Andrew, what do you rank it?
It's a solid 3 for me.
Oh,
I liked it, but would I ever watch this again? No.
You watch worse movies over and over again.
But the thing is that like this right here, again, it's so long, and there's stuff that's like so drawn out. Like I'm kind of with you, Garrett. Like I just don't care. I wish I could, and I can't. Like like I think it does a better job at like fleshing out more of the characters. I think there's a little bit more plot than there is. But yeah, no. I personally, it just like it's good enough to where I'll give it 3 stars. But other than that, don't care. It's not my cup of tea, not my glass of wine.
Fair enough.
Okie dokie. Well, that leaves us with a rounded up average score of a 3.5.
Oh well, again, the algorithm works. We are in tune with the rest of Letterboxd. That is solid 3.5.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be. All right, that wraps up our Zack Snyder's Justice League review. Thanks for watching or listening to the show. Be sure you subscribe if you haven't done that yet. We're of course available on YouTube and in your favorite podcasting app. Just
Andrew, go ahead.
Subscribe to one, both, or all of them. And share the show with your friends. Be sure you check out our social media as well: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd. We just recently shared a couple of very funny videos of Andrew's shenanigans, which is literally all he's good for.
Conveniently, Andrew's gone now. Just in time, he's not.
How are you doing, Clark?
Some random journalist has joined the.
Yeah. That's Caleb right there. That's Caleb.
That's correct there, Garrett Alvin. I thank you so much. Yes.
Bring Andrew back. I don't like this guy.
No, I don't like
him.
Well, as Joshua over here so eloquently put it,
I don't like.
Well, at least Caleb's a little more alert.
Yeah, he's not asleep. He does smoke air cigarettes though, apparently.
Anyway.
Oh, my twin brother.
Finish wrapping up the show there.
I'm only putting on a fake.
Josh, can you mute him?
Bye. I did.
I'm only putting on a fake British accent like my counterpart Amber Heard did, because she also put on a fake British accent for this movie.
Oh yeah,
atrocious.
Forgot about Amber Heard. Oh, Garrett's gone.
Are you gonna let me in the show now? Okay. Find us online. You know the drill. We'll be back next time with another review. See you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.